So, my favorite Beatle album. What's my favorite Beatles album? This is a contest entry for Captain Spaulding. Link below. Check him out. Favorite Beatle album. Let's see. 12 Beatle albums, plus variations, different countries. You know, people who know me know what my favorite Beatle album is. Obviously, I get in moods like we all do of, oh, Abbey Road's pretty great. The White Album's pretty great. Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, Rubber Soul, the American, the English, and everything else. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it. And let's go back to 1966 in May. I remember after school, I walked to the music store in like an outdoor mall, old-fashioned 1950s style outdoor mall in San Francisco. So I walked to the store because I knew the Beatles song was getting up. I had heard it. And that was Rain and Paperback Writer. You know, we all talk about Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane being this big changing point of Beatles and their music and the sound. But Rain and Paperback Writer is one of the greatest Beatle double A sides ever. Paperback Writer, great McCartney song. Rain, great John Lennon song with this amazing drumming of Ringo. Ringo even says his favorite drumming on any Beatles song is his drumming on Rain. So listen to it. And of course, the backward end bit on Rain is really different. But in June 1966, Revolver came out, and that's my favorite Beatle album. So the punchline is there. Let's see now. The American. Okay, obviously I grew up with the American Beatle album. This is my original copy. Usually I take pride. Oh, maybe this isn't. I don't mark these. Let me see, which is my main? Yeah. My original was mono. Yeah, I do have ring wear on it, unfortunately. And but that's, old records have ring wear. But I take pride in my records being in beautiful shape. Just as a reminder, if you're not a Beatle fan or understand this, up until Sgt. Pepper, the American configurations of the Beatle records and the UK and the original configurations were different. Capitol made most of their albums 12 tracks opposed to the UK 14 tracks. And the extra tracks they would save, add singles, and make a separate album, like in this case, just before this, Yesterday and Today. So when Yesterday and Today came out, Apple sent over, actually it wasn't Apple, sorry, because Apple hadn't been invented yet. But Capitol requested a couple of songs from England through George Martin, and George Martin sent some songs that were on the Yesterday and Today comp that were meant for this record. And why do I have multiple copies? Why is there air? This is a cool old copy too, with a hype sticker. Look at that copy. Yellow Submarine and Eleanor Rigby includes the Beatles' fabulous single, right? Great Roger Whittaker cover. One thing about this album, which I love this. This is, this and Sgt. Pepper, I think, are their two best album covers. And this was designed by Klaus Voormann, who the Beatles knew from Hamburg, and it would take up the bass, play with Man for Man, play with George Harrison, Plastic Ono Band, John Lennon, and so on and so forth. But really a great montage and illustration. I love this. And of course, then there is the stereo version. This is an American stereo. Now in let's see. Yeah, these are all Americans. In the 70s, this is, see, what date is this? 70s, early 80s edition of Revolver. I bought some of these up too. I worked in record stores, so I was able to get them cheap. I didn't buy any of these upselling charges, but they're all in great form. Obviously, the original Rainbow Capitol label, and then later the Apple label, and all these different configurations. But I did buy a copy of the entire, and I kept sealed for the most part, Beatles catalog in the 80s, right before the big Capitol switchover. As CDs were coming out in, 86, I think the Beatles CDs first appeared. and they were staggered over about a year, as I call it, every 3 months. They put out 2 different CDs as the CDs period rolled out. They didn't release the entire catalog on CD at once. But right at that point, Capitol in the US switched over their entire Beatle catalog. So all the Beatle albums on Capitol in the US had the original UK configuration, and they dumped the original American configurations. Is this getting confusing? There's no tests after this. So that was a great thing. So I decided, shit, I'm going to buy. So I ended up buying the whole catalog, which I pretty much kept sealed, of the American versions of the Beatles records. So Revolver here. We have here by the way, if you're new here, these 3 across all down are the Beatle records. Beatles, solo, imports, families, Yoko, Sean, Julian, Linda, Mike McCartney, etc. Cover albums, Apple catalog, all configurations. This is a beautiful tube cut Revolver. This is probably a late 70s pressing. Early 70s pressing. So I did get all the configurations of their albums from the UK originals, but I didn't get them till probably around 1968, 69 is when I jumped in and got the original UK. And I tell you, the mixes are different. If you listen to I'm Only Sleeping, that's on the American Yesterday and Today, it's very different than the version on here. This version kicks ass, which has more backwards guitars in the middle of the song. A lot of other different things, different mixes, different takes, not different takes, excuse me, different mixes. But again, the UK version. Then there was a roll-up box. The roll-up box had sealed copies of the Revolver. That was when they put out the CDs. When the CDs came out, they also put a vinyl box that had all the UK configurations. You can see that hype sticker. And then, of course, there's the MoFi box. And the MoFi box had these covers, the tape box covers of Revolver. And there was a separate booklet that had the album covers in it. Okay, now. We have a Japanese pressing. This is the EAS series. I'm not a real fan of the EAS series. I don't think they're as great. People think just every Japanese pressing is great, but not necessarily. But EAS series, Japanese with of Revolver with Obi, and then a French pressing. This is Pathé Marconi French pressing. These are these are in the box set too, the remastered box sets that came out this century. This is the mono all analog Revolver. I do also have a copy in the box, so I bought separates, single separates of these as well as the mono box, and kept this one sealed. I know some of you think, why keep things sealed? I'm not a flipper, maybe down the line someday, but I'm a Beatle collector, so I get as many pressings as I can. That's just my personal taste, and that's all Revolver, the best, my favorite Beatles album. And of course, this is the stereo version that came out, the last version of the stereo version, which are from digital sources. I don't think these are as bad as some people, some audiophiles say, but obviously this is the way to go. I'm a fan, there's that whole thing about the Beatles intended these records to be mono, up even including Sgt. Pepper. I like these records in stereo better. I like Revolver in stereo better. Although the mono has a tighter rock and roll sound, I think psychedelic-wise, this is when they're dipping into the whole psychedelic thing. And lastly, I think, I could go crazy with showing you Revolver copies. I probably have 20 to 25 copies of Revolver, but Here is a pristine mono version. I would say this is late 1970s. So I don't have an original UK 1966 Revolver. I just don't. But these sound fabulous. You know, then you can get into the whole idea and the whole comparison of tube cut versus solid state cut and the different matrix numbers, which I'm not getting into here because that's too technical for this type of submission. So Revolver, the best, at least my favorite Beatles album from 1966. So, you know, great stuff. So after some thought, this is an insertion because I just showed you a bunch of copies of Revolver, and I thought I really need to tell you why I like this album so much, and go through it a little bit. This is an American copy stereo, and this is a UK copy stereo. OG, original, early 70s copy. First of all, the configuration, as I said, George Martin, at the request of Capitol Records, sent several songs that would turn up on Yesterday and Today. And those songs are I'm Only Sleeping, And Your Bird Can Sing, and Dr. Robert. Three amazingly beautiful and psychedelic, like early psychedelic songs. Early psychedelic in terms of the Beatles, what the Beatles were doing. Those three songs to me are very original, very dark in a way, and very beautiful. A lot of textures there on those things. The versions that they sent over that were on the Work in Progress album of Revolver were used on Yesterday and Today, the infamous Butcher cover, and then it became The Trunk, a comp of a bunch of singles thrown together, Capitol wanted product, basically. And they were early mixes, not the final mixes. So years later, when I heard the UK copy, I was just amazed at how different they sound. I mentioned, obviously, I'm Always Sleeping. The backwards guitars are more prominent. They're brought up in several segments more on the UK version over the American version. And Your Bird Can Sing. I don't recall right now the differences, but that's a song that I just love. And as much as I love it, and I like Yesterday and Today as an album, of course, when that album came out, it had Day Tripper and We Can Work It Out on it. And Day Tripper, what a great rock and roll song. And of course, We Can Work It Out. I think We Can Work It Out is one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs. It's a great combination of Lennon and McCartney. So those songs on Yesterday and Today, along with the three songs that would make up Revolver, it makes it a really good record. I like that. I like Yesterday and Today. But in a way, I kind of wish we had gotten what we got with the UK. Obviously, the UK version of Revolver is the better of the two, better than the American version. I'm one that feels the previous album, Rubber Soul, I think the American Rubber Soul gives a run for the money, although there are less songs in the UK, and the UK is the way the Beatles intended. I think Rubber Soul stands on its own as a perfect sort of folk country-esque Beatle album that really works, more of a natural kind of organic Beatles album than the UK configuration. And obviously, that is not what the artists intended, but they did a pretty good job at Capitol Records on that American Rubber Soul. But what a great record here. Now, some people who are looking back on this record 50 plus years now think that Yellow Submarine is the song that shouldn't be here. It's the novelty song. It's the goofy song. I can understand that. To some people, it's a skipper. It doesn't feel a part of this, although at the time, I mean, it was one of the huge songs off the record when the record first came out. Got a lot of airplay. It was a single. But there was so much more in this record. She Said, I Know What It's Like to Be Dead, John Lennon taking a line from Peter Fonda quote at a party in Los Angeles. Tomorrow Never Knows, the great backwards tape loops that are around and around that made it sound like seagull sounds. and, John taking from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Got to get you in my life, a very kind of soulful Motown, like a McCartney song, and same with Good Day Sunshine as well. But For No One, to me, is a perfect McCartney song, a perfect McCartney ballad, just gorgeous. Dr. Robert, as I mentioned, I had heard obviously from yesterday and today, just a great riff on that song. And Harrison's I Want to Tell You, and Harrison opening up an album with Taxman. That was the stunner. The way the countdown, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and they go into Taxman. I think it was so wonderful of the Beatles to open up with that great, great song, and a George Harrison song to lead off an album that hadn't been done up to this point. Taxman's just a great song. And in a way, it's kind of, it's one of the first Beatles protest songs, obviously. And they talk about Mr. Wilson and Mr. Heath, Prime Minister Wilson, in that song about getting taxed too much in the UK. Because remember, around this time, I think it's like 80-90% tax rate for rich people. I'm not saying we shouldn't tax the rich, but at some point, 80-90% really, make it 50% and I'm good. But really make it 50%. So anyway, great, great record. Here, There, and Everywhere, one of the great, great McCartney ballads as well, too. And Love You Too, which was just so psychedelic and Indian and drone-like song of George Harrison. So that's my little take on the songs and the music in this album, my favorite Beatles album from 1966, Revolver. Thanks for watching. Mazzy loves you.